Hitler is one of history's most infamous figures, a name that evokes images of war, destruction, and genocide. Born on April 20, 1889, in Braunau am Inn, a small town in Austria-Hungary, Hitler's early life was marked by conflict and ambition. He struggled in school, clashed with his father, and dreamed of becoming an artist, even applying, unsuccessfully, to the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna. During these early years, Hitler developed many of the radical views that would later define his politics, including intense German nationalism and deep-seated antisemitism. When World War I broke out in 1914, Hitler enlisted in the German army. He served as a messenger on the Western Front, earning 2 Iron Crosses for bravery. The war profoundly shaped him. Germany's defeat in 1918 left him embittered and determined to restore the nation's power. Like many others, he viewed the Treaty of Versailles, which imposed harsh penalties on Germany, as a humiliation. After the war, Hitler joined the German Workers' Party, which would soon become the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazi Party. A gifted orator, Hitler quickly rose through the party ranks. By 1921, he had become its leader, advocating a platform of ultranationalism, racism, and anti-communism. In 1923, he attempted a coup known as the Beer Hall Putsch in Munich. It failed, and Hitler was sentenced to prison. During his time behind bars, he wrote Mein Kampf, outlining his ideology and future plans for Germany. In it, he blamed Jews, communists, and others for Germany's problems, and articulated his vision of a pure Aryan state. After his release, Hitler worked to rebuild the Nazi Party. The economic turmoil of the late 1920s and early 1930s, particularly the Great Depression, gave him a growing base of support. Promising to restore Germany's former glory, he appealed to many desperate citizens. In 1933, he was appointed Chancellor of Germany. Once in power, he quickly consolidated control, banning other political parties, silencing dissent, and establishing a totalitarian regime. The Nazi state was built on propaganda, surveillance, and brutal repression, with Hitler at its absolute center. In 1939, Hitler's aggressive foreign policy led to the invasion of Poland, triggering World War II. Over the next few years, Nazi forces conquered much of Europe, but Hitler's ambitions extended far beyond military conquest. He also orchestrated the Holocaust, the systematic murder of 6 million Jews, along with millions of others, including Romani people, disabled individuals, and political opponents. This genocide was carried out with chilling efficiency in ghettos, concentration camps, and extermination camps across Nazi-occupied Europe. As the war turned against Germany, Hitler became increasingly isolated and paranoid. By 1945, Allied forces were closing in on Berlin. On April 30, 1945, with the city in ruins and defeat inevitable, Hitler took his own life in his underground bunker. His death marked the end of the Third Reich. Adolf Hitler's legacy is one of unprecedented destruction and cruelty. His rise to power serves as a grim reminder of how democracy can falter under pressure, how propaganda can manipulate truth, and how unchecked hatred can lead to unimaginable suffering. Though decades have passed since his death, the impact of his actions continues to shape global history, politics, and collective memory to this day. The scars left by Hitler's regime are still visible in the collective consciousness of nations, particularly in Europe, where the consequences of his war and genocide are embedded in cultural identity, public discourse, and international policy. The Holocaust is memorialized in museums, monuments, and education systems worldwide as a solemn warning of the atrocities that can arise from prejudice and authoritarian rule. Survivors and historians continue to speak out, ensuring that the lessons of the past are not forgotten. In the aftermath of World War II, The world sought to build new institutions and frameworks aimed at preventing such horrors from ever occurring again. The United Nations, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Nuremberg Trials, and the Geneva Conventions are all part of a global response to the crimes committed under Hitler's rule. His actions forced humanity to reckon with the depths of its own potential for evil and the urgent need for justice, accountability, and peace. Yet, even today, the ideologies Hitler championed, racism, xenophobia, and authoritarianism, have not been fully eradicated. In times of crisis, extremist movements can still gain traction by exploiting fear and division. The study of Hitler's life and regime is not just about understanding a dark chapter in history. It is about remaining vigilant in the present. His story underscores the fragility of democracy and the dangers of apathy in the face of rising intolerance. By remembering the consequences of Hitler's rule, societies affirm a commitment to truth, justice, and human dignity. The legacy he left behind is not just one of horror, but also of resistance. From the bravery of those who stood against tyranny to the resilience of the victims who endured unimaginable suffering. To study Hitler is to remember not only what was lost, but also what must be protected: freedom, equality, and the sanctity of human life. The world continues to learn from the shadow he cast. In honoring the memory of those who perished and confronting the lessons of his rise and fall, we renew our collective promise: never again. To keep that promise, education must remain a cornerstone, rooted not only in facts and history, but in empathy and critical thinking. The stories of survivors, the ruins of concentration camps, the records of war crimes, these are not merely relics of the past, but warnings etched into the conscience of humanity. As new generations grow up further removed from the events of the Second World War, the challenge is to make the past feel urgent and relevant. We must confront revisionism, resist denial, and amplify voices that champion truth and justice. In every act of remembrance, in every stand against oppression, we push back against the darkness that once engulfed the world. The responsibility is ours, not just to remember, but to act, to speak, and to uphold the values that safeguard human dignity. Only by confronting the horrors of history with honesty and resolve can we build a future where such evil finds no fertile ground. Let the memory of those who suffered not fade into silence. Let their legacy shape a more just, compassionate, and vigilant world.